there was a Heineken event that was happening at Uhuru Gardens, and it was so fulfilling for me, and it was a very proud moment for me to see that some of my students were part of the crew that was setting up the equipment and really running the sound that was on stage.
So, of the 3 things that you teach, let me call them subjects, do you have a favorite and why?
So of the 3 subjects that I teach, the 3 units I teach, I wouldn't quite say that I have one particular favorite, but what I'll say is I'm finding myself focusing more on the Foley and ADR and more than on the multitrack, simply because the other teachers who have, by the time the students get to me, because they get to me in SEM 3, they already have an idea of multitrack recording. So I'm really just reinforcing the ideas that they have. I don't really have to go so much into detail. But the multitrack recording finds its way into the Foley and ADR, because what I try to do is I try to push them into actually recording films. So they end up having to shoot a film and then recreate the Foley and do ADR on that same film. But because they're also doing a multi-track class, now they create a soundtrack for that particular film. And I find that the quality of the music that they create is really good. And so I don't need to get so much into detail, sort of sorting out that area, but it's in the Foley and ADR where there's a lot of work, and I enjoy the work simply because it's something it's a field that's relatively untapped as far as local film is concerned here, because you hardly ever find that a filmmaker needing somebody to do the final mix or the soundtrack for it. Let me rephrase that. You hardly ever find that the filmmakers come and say, okay, I need you to do for me Foley and ADR. I don't know if it's a matter of them not feeling that they don't need it simply because they've gotten really good audio on set. But I find that having to recreate this Foley and this ADR for even existing local films is such an exciting thing, because it sort of gives the film a new breath of life. And I feel that that's very exciting for me, creating all those layers and soundscapes and breathing new life into a film.
So, do you have a favorite moment in the classroom? What's your favorite moment in the classroom?
Okay, a favorite moment in the classroom. Let me see. Some of my favorite moments in the classroom, because I don't have just one, is when we sit down and analyze films with the students, because Foley and ADR is mostly in the domain of film. And I have to pull up some films from YouTube and maybe just sections of films, and I like to go to old films. And it always really jazzes me, so to speak, when I see the students who are very young people watching these old films for the first time and watching them as though they're completely new films, and me having to explain generally the spirit behind the film or behind the scene that we're watching, and then hearing the various ideas that they have for how we can improve the quality of the Foley and the ADR on those particular films. One of the things that I do is we take a film excerpt and translate it into the language that the students like to speak. So it's in Shembeteng. So we'll take a scene like, for example, from The Usual Suspects, and these students are now making that particular scene in Shembeteng, and of course now creating the entire soundscape around it. And it's all really, really fascinating to watch and to hear how they interpret these old films, and just how they process how they're going to create that particular soundscape. So I think it's a moment of seeing young creatives inject life into an old thing. Mm.
Beautiful. So, is there a moment where a student has surprised you or made you proud?
That's a trick question. Huh? Well. My students constantly surprise me and they constantly make me proud. Of course, sometimes they don't do their assignments on time. But when I see the kind of quality of material that they present, one of the things that I do at the beginning of the semester is I ask them to play for me some of the music that they've created. And it's normally a very laid-back class. And some of them come up and they play really cool jams. But I always find that there's a majority of them that have really good industry-ready music. When I hear that material, I ask them the questions, all the relevant questions as far as where they got the samples from, and like sort of what kind of help, technical help they've gotten from, how can I call it, what sort of hacks they've used, sort of shortcuts they've used to achieve the quality that they've achieved. And it always surprises me and makes me proud, because that was what the question was, when they tell me that they didn't use any shortcuts. They really just created that stuff from scratch. And for me, that really is quite eye-opening for me. I'm like, okay, the sound of music has changed, and I can hear it clearly when I hear the demos from the students. So at the end of that class, I normally tell them that the quality that they presented is the quality that I expect at the end of the semester when they do their final exam. And it's always very impressive when I hear that the final quality that they present is that very quality that I had at the beginning. So for that reason, I know that ADMI normally gets the absolute best of the best. And it's always a privilege for me to be able to work with people that actually do have talent, so that as I'm teaching, I'm not feeling like all the stuff that I'm teaching is going to waste. Of course, the students that are slightly slower than others, but I'm always confident that by the end of the semester, everyone will be at the same level of skill.
What's your most fulfilling moment in the classroom?
Yeah. Okay. So the most fulfilling moment for me is when I'm out in the real world as a teacher. I'm talking as a teacher. When I'm out in the real world and I'm doing a gig, or even at a rehearsal. Like one of the places that we rehearse with my bands, with the various bands that I work with, is Gig Dynamics. And I go there, and the people that are setting up the gear for us are my students. And it's always really, I feel like, I actually taught some good stuff here. And it's not just me, it's the collective ADMI environment makes it so that the ADMI alumni that I interact with are very professional. I recently got an opportunity to produce and conduct the anthem for the UEFA Champions League. There was a Heineken event that was happening at Uhuru Gardens, and it was so fulfilling for me, and it was a very proud moment for me to see that some of the students, some of my students were part of the crew that was setting up the equipment and really running the sound that was on stage. And at that particular point, I was dependent on them. Because if they didn't do their work properly, then I wouldn't have been able to deliver my work properly. Also at GMI Festival, some of our students were in the sound crew, and my in-ear monitors were dependent on a student of ADMI. And he did an excellent mix. I did a job. I won't say a great job, yes, because we only do great jobs. It helped my confidence on stage, knowing that, okay, he is a student, or a former student of ADMI, so I know that he's capable of doing, of handling his end of the deal. So he did his job, I was able to do my job. And that is always very, very fulfilling for me. Just seeing how professional ADMI students become when they get out there in the real world.
So what do you think your students remember the most after leaving your class?
One of the things that I do with my class is I tell them at the very beginning that they're not just here to learn from me, but I'm here to learn from them as well. I'm here to exchange ideas with them and not just teach them. So by the time that we finish the semester, we come out, even though I'm the one that's marking the exam, but I'm marking the exam of my colleagues. So I see them as my colleagues in the industry. And what I've experienced and what I've heard from the ones that I interacted with from the various events that I've been talking about is, yes, I'm their teacher, I was their teacher, but when they introduce me to their friends, they're like, yeah, this is our colleague, this is a guy that we work with. And I think that is the spirit of ADMI, creating people that are professionals in the industry and creating this ecosystem where you know that if you get into this place and you find an ADMI student is working there, you know, here, iko kazi muzuri. So, yeah.
What's your favorite place in campus or on campus?
My favorite place on campus? I have two favorite places on campus. One is the finance office, because that's where they pay me from. I'm kidding. My two favorite places on campus. One is the music studio, because that's where I hold my classes with my students. And every time that I walk into my classes, I find the students playing their own music and, I mean, just generally finishing up material, and I get an opportunity to listen to this fine music that is still in the creation period, in the creation stage. So when finally the rest of the world gets to hear that music, I had it first. Second place that I really enjoy being in is the faculty lounge, simply because there I interact with my colleagues who, in my view, are more brilliant than me, and I learn a lot from them. We have very interesting discussions about any and everything, various worldviews. We have discussions about politics, but what I always find is that everything is so cordial, and by the time we leave, I leave on Thursdays, I'm like, see, you guys just give me another unit that I teach on Friday so that I come and see the same guys. Or there's some of the faculty members that we hardly meet because I'm here only once a week. But also when they turn up at the faculty lounge, it's always these great conversations that happen in there, and that's always so much fun. Yeah, in fact, I'm waiting to go back and have another argument. No, I'm just being silly about that. Some of the experiences I've had as far as the school facilitating our growth, there have been workshops where they've brought people to teach us some of the things, like the way I'm talking a lot about AI. That's one of the things that we had a faculty session where we were being taught how we can be able to employ AI to make our teaching methods easier and more efficient and more effective as well.